So a very warm welcome to you all. I welcome Ritu Agarwal. She is the Managing Director of Gyandhara Feed. So we know, Ritu, that your company is also focused on dairy and feed as well. So maybe try to understand, because you are primarily, for you, if I talk about right now in this current context, in the feed side, the cattle feed side, how you have seen the impact of increase in feed prices in terms of the supply chain linkages, demand for feed at the farm level, at the company level. What has been your experience so far if we talk about inflation for your industry?
Thank you, Shiva. It's a pleasure to be a part of this webinar. So, first, I will start with the inflation part of it. As I would like to state that Amul has increased its milk procurement rate by 4 rupees today. So, the input prices, they have been constantly increasing in the last 2 years, but at the same time, the milk prices did not increase due to the glutton demand. So, there has been a low demand because of the COVID situation. And after this low demand, we are expecting a hyperinflation as of now. The demand for dairy products has risen sharply because there was a lag in as compared to the input prices. So now I think, when we talk about the feed industry, so the dairy farmer, the main, the source is cattle feed for him. And the cost of production for the milk farmer has risen by 60% because of the increase in prices of oil meals, the maize, and protein meals, etc. And this inflation is expected to remain so for at least another 2 3 years. So talking about the feed perspective for our company, actually most part of it is a captive sales for us. So for us, the logistical issues aren't there, and whatever we supply to the farmer is as a barter to the milk that he gives to us. So that is how we are doing it. But at the same time, the mitigant, I would say, is the fact that the farmer is more, he's not very resistant to paying high price for the cattle feed. In fact, once he is seeing the result in good quality cattle feed, then we have seen a shift from the basic type 3 to type 2 and type 1. So this is where he's getting a good ROI when the farmer is feeding a good quality feed to the cattle. So this is one change that we have seen. At the same time, talking about technology, I would like to state that, yeah, definitely in COVID times, the direct to consumer, these platforms who have done like even ITC, or for example, Gyandhara also, like we also launched our app, and direct to home has done really well in these COVID times. So we have seen a drastic shift in consumer temperament. In fact, when it comes to value added products, there has been a shift when it comes to paneer and dahi kind of products, the hygienic, people are ready to pay more for these things. And I think with COVID times, we have seen that drastic change, and which is a win-win situation. Yeah, so I was talking about the fact that what we have seen is exactly opposite of the common perception regarding high prices. In fact, higher demand is the primary reason for higher prices or inflation. The consumer behavior we have seen has changed rapidly in COVID times. People have been looking for good quality and hygienic products. I mean, the shift from informal to formal, products like paneer and dahi, they have been doing really well, the packaged products. So this has helped the dairy companies to invest more in the procurement infrastructure and to create a direct connect with the farmers. So what I said was, it is a win-win-win situation, which is positively impacting the farmers, the processors, and the consumers at the same time.
Thanks, Ritu. I think interesting take in terms of how you see on the demand side. Also, of course, if you have more demand, there is bound to inflation. That's a direct output of that. Ritu, I think you talked about mitigants. So maybe just to understand from your side, from the feed side, what has changed for you when you look at feed sourcing, raw material for feed? Has your strategy changed in terms of managing the feed prices so that you are able to be competitive when you sell it, apart from selling into your own captive consumption for Gyan Dairy, selling outside parties to your customers? How your strategy has changed in terms of looking at the supply chain of feed, in terms of sourcing of feed or buying of feed? Do you think there is any kind of change which you have been looking at, innovative way to bring price increase or inflation under control? Ritu?
Yeah. So, talking about the raw material for the feed, I think there is a global super cycle of commodities, and all the commodity prices have been rising globally. So, even we, as a cattle feed manufacturer, we have been facing this, and the price of raw material has really shot up. So, there is no change in strategy, just buying the raw material at the right time is something that we are doing. And at the same time, I mean, we are really focusing on the quality. So this is one thing that is I have said it before, I'm saying it again, that leads to a good ROI for the farmer. So that is one thing. Other than that, I don't see a need for containing inflation in dairy sector, because it I feel it has been long overdue, and to create a balance between the input cost, long term inflation, and the selling price, this cycle can be a blessing in disguise. I treat it like a corrective measure. When we talk about the milk producer, when we talk about the farmer, so 75% of the cost goes into the feed, what he is feeding to the cat. So 75% of the price goes there, and then we talk about the packaging, the fuel, etc., etc. So as a cattle feed company, what best we are doing is providing the best quality feed in order to create a good ROI for the farmer. Yeah.
If the feed market is regulated in India, do you see any kind of regulations which is inhibiting the feed market? And we talking from cattle feed perspective or nutrition side. Anything, any pointers from your side which you feel is limiting or can enhance the growth of dairy feed, cattle feed market in India?
So I would like to add that the government has been trying to implement BIS norms for the cattle feed industry, but it has been going on and off. There are times when this thing comes that the BIS norms will be regulated from, say, January was the time when we were advised to do it. But again, this decision has been long pending, and I really feel that now is the need, as humans need good quality feed in a similar manner. In order to have good quality milk production, we really need to focus on good quality cattle feed, and the government should make it mandatory for the cattle feed companies to have BIS standards.
Okay. I think it's more about some of the, maybe possibly going forward, we will have more rigid, or I will say quality standards coming in, but the market for formal market is still quite small. What I understand is the total market might even be maybe in single digit share of formal market share of in the cattle feed side compared to total cattle feed demand in India. So clearly, I think there's a lot of potential in terms of pushing the growth of cattle feed market in India going forward. So that's, I think, will go along the supply chain formalization. We will see more of formal players coming into the market across the value chain. We will see more and more of such kind of activity in the feed side also. So maybe Ritu, you can provide your perspective on that because you also have a dairy linkage on the product side. Different value addition right now happening, whether it's milkshakes or we see different kind of innovations happening in the dairy product side now. So what has been the experience of Gyan right now in terms of tapping that market when we look at consumption behavior in context of, again, prices, because at that level, prices may not impact that much of demand. It's more about creating demand in that segment. Ritu.
Thank you, Shiva. Yeah, definitely. During COVID times, we have seen a shift to value-added products, the better, the packaged products, the hygiene products, basically. So there has been a shift. We have seen a immense increase in demand of paneer and dahi. After COVID times, people are more concerned about the quality, and I think in the dairy product market, the value added product market is increasing rapidly. And we talk about the urban clients, they're not very price sensitive. All they are worried about is quality. So I think we have a great scope there.
So Ritu, coming to this particular part only, and on the feed side also, it's like what's your experience in terms of looking at domestic feed industry? So do you have any trade linkages on the feed side? Not talking about dairy product as such, but on the feed side, like of course we have been more of a non-GM feed kind of source, and then we do look at certain times because there has been some issues in terms of being monsoon dependence. Feed and feed grains are actually output of that. So clearly, there are situations when we are short of some specific feed. Do you have any kind of strategy to look at sourcing from outside or even exporting at times, maybe even in South Asian market, not outside, but at least the neighboring countries near to India? So what has been your strategy on the feed side in terms of trade part?
So definitely we have a very good demand when it comes to Nepal, Bangladesh. People are exporting to these countries. But at the same time, like Professor said, I really align with this idea that now we cannot just stick to the normal norms. We have to make feed which is, for that particular breed of cattle, whether it is buffalo special or whether it is, the kind of cattle we are catering to. We need to work on calf starters, we need to work on transition feeds. And so now is the time we need to look at all that, and accordingly, once we start doing that, we can improve the quality of milk output. So this is where we as cattle feed owners, we need to work on that. So that is what I feel. And talking about the input prices, definitely, there has been such a increase in prices. Soybean was being exported, and which resulted to, almost doubling of the price. And in a similar manner, whether it was mustard or it was cottonseed or it was maize, the prices have risen up sharply. And in accordance, the cattle feed prices have also gone up. And the end result, we can see the farmer is the one who's suffering. He's not able to get the right price for his milk. So all these measures together are leading to inflation. And again, I would say the same thing. This is a corrective measure, and only when we increase the milk prices for the farmer, only then the cycle can improve.
So, Ritu, last mile linkage to consumers, you had that right now. So, I'm just trying to understand, what do you think of that in terms of future plans for you, and also in connecting to farmers also? Do you have such kind of plans, technology platform for farmers also going forward? So again, plus your inputs finally on closing on inflation outlook for 2022.
So talking about the dairy industry first, the top line has been affected for sure if we compare it to the last year. But the value added products will definitely, we are also expecting a good summer this time, and we feel the demand for value added products should increase in the coming times, and accordingly should the top line according to that. So now talking about the technology, definitely in Gyan Dairy, the direct to consumer kind of app, because we started it during COVID times, and it has really done well, because being there, being at the right place at the right time, it worked for us. And the direct link to the consumer has been great, because in turn they also get proper quality at the right time. There's no delays, there's no delay of or any logistical problems in that. So that way it has really proved well for us. Talking about the connection with the farmer on tech-based thing, that is the next thing that we intend to do next year. I really want to create an app for the farmer wherein we get directly connected to them, and they can, we have farmer data. We are linked to approximately 1.5 lakh farmers. So once we have the data, we can, in accordance, we can, provide them with, we do Gyandhara Manthans, we do vet camps, free vet camps for the farmers. So all these can be provided by app. This is the next plan for Gyandhara. And again, talking about the perspective of cattle feed industry, it has been seen that the cattle feed industry, the feed industry in India is growing. And we expect from 2021 to 2026, there can be a CAGR of 12.5%. So this is the kind of growth I'm expecting in the animal feed industry in India.
I think good insights, a bit critical also. So well taken for wonderful insights during the session. I think it's always good to get different perspectives on, particularly if you look at dairy industry in India and right now in the context of inflation. And with this, I close the session and look forward to be in touch with going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Shiv.